Have you ever wondered why you cannot stop scrolling your phone even when you desperately want to? Why some people can try a drug once and become completely consumed by it within weeks? Why even after losing everything, their family, their career, their health, an addict still cannot stop? The answer is not weakness. The answer is not lack of character. The answer is inside your brain. And once you understand it, you will never look at addiction the same way again. Stay with me. Because what I am about to show up you will change how you see yourself, the people around you, and even your own daily habits. Welcome back. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and terrifying systems in the entire human body, the dopamine reward system. We are going to explore exactly what dopamine is, how it controls nearly every decision you make, and how addiction literally rewires your brain at a structural level. This is the science of dopamine and addiction. And it is far more shocking than most people realize. Let us start at the very beginning. Deep inside your brain, in a tiny but incredibly powerful region called the ventral tegmental area, or VTA, special neurons are constantly producing a chemical called dopamine. Now here is where most people get it wrong. For decades, dopamine has been called the pleasure chemical. You have probably heard that. But modern neuroscience tells us that description is not quite accurate. Dopamine is not really about pleasure at all. Dopamine is about wanting. It is about craving. Seeking. Pursuing. Dopamine is the fuel that makes you get up in the morning. It is what makes you hungry for success, for food, for love, for excitement. Without dopamine, you would feel absolutely nothing. No motivation. No desire. No reason to do anything at all. Think about the last time you were really excited about something. Maybe a vacation you were planning, or waiting for a package to arrive, or even just smelling food cooking from the next room. That buzzing, electric feeling of anticipation. That is dopamine doing its job perfectly. Dopamine does not reward you for getting what you want. It fires up while you are chasing it. It is nature's way of keeping you alive, motivated, and moving forward. And for most of human history, that system worked beautifully. Until we figured out how to hack it, how the reward system works. Every time your brain experiences something it considers rewarding, it releases dopamine through a pathway called the mesolimbic pathway, also known as the brain's reward circuit. Here is how it works. The VTA produces dopamine and sends it rushing to a region called the nucleus accumbens, your brain's pleasure and reward center. From there, signals travel to the prefrontal cortex, which controls your decision-making, your impulse control, and your ability to think rationally about consequences. When this circuit activates, you feel it immediately. A rush of excitement. A feeling of aliveness. A powerful sense that whatever you just did, you need to do again. And your brain agrees. It stamps that experience with a message so deep and so powerful that it can last a lifetime. That was good. Remember that. Do it again. This is how you learn to love your favorite food. This is how falling in love feels so intoxicating. This is how a runner gets addicted to their morning run. The reward circuit is one of evolution's greatest gifts. It keeps you pursuing things that help you survive and thrive. But here is where the story takes a dark turn. How drugs hijack your brain. Under normal circumstances, natural rewards like food, exercise, or social connection produce a moderate, healthy rise in dopamine. Maybe 50 to 100% above your normal baseline. Your brain handles that easily. It feels good, it motivates you, and then it returns to normal. Balance maintained. But addictive drugs do something completely different. Something the human brain was never designed to handle. Cocaine raises dopamine levels approximately 350% above normal baseline, all at once, in seconds. Methamphetamine. Over 1000%. Let that sink in for a moment. Your brain has never felt anything like that in its entire evolutionary history. Nothing in nature produces that kind of dopamine surge. It is like plugging a device designed for a standard outlet directly into a power plant. The system goes into complete overdrive. The user experiences a feeling of euphoria so intense, so overwhelming, so unlike anything they have ever felt naturally, that in that moment, nothing else in the world seems to matter. And the brain, which is always trying to learn and adapt, immediately takes note. But now comes the part that turns a choice into a disease. When the brain detects this unnatural flood of dopamine, it panics. It responds the only way it knows how, by reducing the number of dopamine receptors available. It literally removes the receivers to turn down the signal. Scientists call this downregulation. You might call it the beginning of the end. Because now the person needs more of the drug just to achieve the same effect. Their tolerance has increased. And while that is already alarming, the truly devastating consequence is what happens to everything else in their life. Normal pleasures, a good meal, a conversation with a friend, a beautiful sunset, now produce almost no dopamine response at all. The brain can barely feel them anymore. The receptors are gone. What used to bring joy now brings nothing. This condition has a clinical name. It is called anhedonia. The complete inability to feel pleasure from ordinary life. And for someone trapped in it, it is one of the most unbearable experiences a human being can go through. The addiction loop. Now the trap is complete. And it works like this. The person uses the substance. They feel a brief, artificial rush. But when it wears off, their dopamine crashes far below their normal baseline. Not just back to normal. Below it. They feel depressed, anxious, hollow, and physically sick. Their brain screams at them that something is terribly wrong. So they use again. Not to feel high anymore. Just to feel human. Just to feel normal. Just to make the emptiness stop. And while all of this is happening, the prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part of the brain, is being systematically weakened. The addiction is literally shrinking and damaging the very part of the brain responsible for saying, stop. For thinking about consequences. For making healthy choices. This is why telling an addict to just stop or just use willpower is like telling someone with 2 broken legs to just run faster. The biological machinery required for that self-control has been damaged by the addiction itself. The brain has been physically rewired. Structurally changed. And it now treats the addictive substance the way it treats food and water, as something necessary for survival. That is not weakness. That is neuroscience. The modern epidemic, social media and dopamine. Now here is where this story becomes personal for almost every single person watching this video. Because you do not need heroin or cocaine to have your dopamine system hijacked. It is happening to hundreds of millions of people right now, through their smartphones. Social media platforms are not accidentally addictive. They are deliberately, precisely, and scientifically engineered to exploit your dopamine reward system. Here is the key insight that makes social media so uniquely dangerous. Neuroscientists have discovered that unpredictable rewards trigger far more dopamine than predictable ones. If you knew you would get a reward every single time you did something, your dopamine response would quickly flatten out. But if the reward is random, sometimes you get it, sometimes you do not, your brain goes into overdrive. It cannot stop seeking. This is the exact same mechanism that makes slot machines so devastatingly addictive. And it is the exact mechanism behind every like, every comment, every notification on your phone. Every time you pull down to refresh your feed, you are pulling the lever of a slot machine. Sometimes there is something exciting, sometimes there is nothing. But your dopamine system cannot resist finding out. Former engineers from some of the world's biggest tech companies have come forward and openly admitted that these features were not accidental. The infinite scroll. The notification badge. The pull to refresh. The autoplay. These were all designed with one specific goal, to keep your dopamine system in a permanent state of craving. And the results speak for themselves. The average American now spends over 4 hours per day on their phone. Teenagers average even more. Rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness have skyrocketed, particularly among young people, in direct correlation with the rise of social media. The dopamine system that evolved over millions of years to help humans survive is now being exploited by algorithms optimized for engagement metrics. Recovery and hope. But here is the part of this story that genuinely gives me hope. And I want you to hold on to this. The brain is not permanently broken. It has an extraordinary, almost miraculous ability to heal itself, a property scientists call neuroplasticity. And research is showing us more clearly every year that recovery from addiction, real, lasting recovery, is absolutely possible. When a person removes the addictive substance or behavior, the brain begins a slow but powerful process of restoration. Dopamine receptors gradually grow back. The reward system begins to rebalance. Natural pleasures slowly start to feel good again. It takes time. It is not easy. But it happens. Exercise is one of the most powerful tools available for dopamine recovery. It stimulates natural dopamine production and actually encourages the growth of new receptors. It rebuilds the system from the ground up. Cold exposure, something as simple as a cold shower, has been shown in peer-reviewed research to increase dopamine levels by up to 250% in a sustained, healthy, natural way. Not a spike and crash, a genuine elevation that lasts for hours. Quality sleep is non-negotiable. During deep sleep, the brain actively repairs and regenerates dopamine receptors. Every night of good sleep is literally a night of neurological healing. Meditation has been shown to increase dopamine receptor density over time, essentially making your brain more sensitive to natural pleasure again. And a diet rich in protein, particularly foods containing an amino acid called tyrosine, gives your brain the raw materials it needs to manufacture dopamine naturally. These are not magic cures. But they are real, science-backed tools that work with your brain's natural healing capacity. And for millions of people around the world, they have made the difference between a life consumed by addiction and a life rebuilt on genuine joy. So let me leave you with this final thought. Addiction is not a moral failure. It is not a character flaw. It is not what happens to weak people or bad people or people who simply did not try hard enough. Addiction is what happens when one of the most powerful biological systems in the human body gets hijacked by something it was never designed to handle. It is a brain disease. A neurological condition. And it deserves to be treated with the same compassion and seriousness as any other medical illness. Understanding the science of dopamine does not just explain addiction. It explains ambition. It explains love. It explains why you cannot put your phone down and why some mornings feel electric with possibility while others feel completely gray. Dopamine is at the center of the human experience. And the more you understand it, the more power you have over your own mind, your own habits, and your own life. If this video helped you see something differently today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more science that actually matters. And I will see you in the next one.